This is the Dollemore Daily, and I'm Jesse Dollemore.
Rest easy, everybody. Rest easy. If you were worried about the whereabouts of Ted Cruz, it is okay. You can relax. Lion Ted has been found. He is stateside once again after his very, very brief vacation to Cancun. I did a video yesterday talking about Ted Cruz abdicating his role as a United States Senator, abandoning the citizens of Texas, and flying with his family to Cancun, Mexico for respite, for an escape from the freezing temperatures and miserable weather in Texas, the lack of power, the lack of water, the misery that millions of Texans currently find themselves in. Now, the power is being returned to the residents. Water, it's the problem isn't behind them, but it is lessened. And I want to go through kind of what happened, because he is a liar. It's an amazing thing just how much the family has lied about what took place. First, here's a clip of him in Mexico. It was one of those deals where he boarded the plane, and then by the time he got to Mexico, he realized, oh, shit's not good at home. The jig is up. Everyone's realizing that I left. And here's a clip of him telling a story that ends up changing hours later, actually, when he gets back to the United States. But let's start here.
Well, Texas is going through horrific storms, and millions of Texans have lost power, have lost heat, and have been hurt. And our family was among them. We had no heat and no power. And yesterday, my daughters asked if they could take a trip with some friends, and Heidi and I agreed, so I flew down with them last night, dropped them off here, and now I'm headed back to Texas and back to continuing to work to try to get the power on. What's happening in Texas is unacceptable, and a lot of Texans are hurting. So
there he's saying yesterday, the day before this was filmed, this little interview on the ground in the airport in Cancun. Yesterday, my daughters, they asked if they could take a trip with some friends. So I am just flying them down, dropping them off, and then flying right back to the United States, because that's something that needs to happen. Drop them off here, and now I'm headed back to Texas. So Lion Ted is now Flying Ted, heading back home. None of this makes any sense, especially when the reporting started happening. Thank goodness for journalists, the only profession protected under the United States Constitution, the free and fair press. Peter Alexander tweeted this. New: Ted Cruz booked his return ticket from Cancun to Texas at 6 a.m. today, according to a source with knowledge of the situation. Cruz was initially booked to return on Saturday. So he's a liar. He's acting as though there in that interview that I'm just going to drop my kids off, as though it's for a sleepover across town. That he's going to fly with Heidi and his girls out of the country to drop them off in Mexico and then turn around and fly back. Because that makes a lot of sense. The other way that we know he's lying, just based on common sense, is this photo of him toting his bag. Does the size of that bag, that giant bag, indicate to you that he was just going to be there for a few hours? Just overnight, just long enough to drop them off, get them settled, and then fly out the very next day. Come on. What's he carrying there for an overnight trip in that giant bag? Liar. He's a liar. And then, again, journalists doing God's work. The New York Times somehow got access to a group text message thread, including Heidi Cruz, that incriminates her, that indicates that not only is Ted lying, but that Heidi Cruz planned the trip And it was because of the fact that her house was freezing. It was cold. They couldn't handle it anymore. This article from the New York Times, Ted Cruz's Cancun trip, family texts detail his political blunder. The Texas senator faced fierce blowback for fleeing his state as a disaster unfolded. Text messages sent by his wife revealed a hastily planned trip away from their freezing family home. Text messages sent from Miss Cruz to friends and Houston neighbors on Wednesday revealed a hastily planned trip. Their house was quote-unquote freezing, as Miss Cruz put it, and she proposed a getaway until Sunday. Miss Cruz invited others to join them at the Ritz-Carlton in Cancun, where they had stayed quote-unquote many times, noting the room price this week, $309 per night, and the hotel's good security. The text messages were provided to the New York Times and confirmed by a second person on the thread who declined to be identified because of the private nature of the texts. They're all just liars. How nice must it be to escape the misery that all of your fellow citizens of Texas are experiencing to fly to an over $300 a night room in Cancun at the Ritz-Carlton. Here he is landing in Texas with armed police escort, getting off the plane and I guess through customs to usher him through to his next interview, which I'm going to play right here, part of it. It's one long, 3-minute thing. I'm going to break it up into two parts because at one point he starts rambling, trying to filibuster to get away from the interview about how this problem needs to be solved and I care about the problem. That's why I was in Mexico for some reason. Anyway, here's part one.
Senator Cruz, what do you say to the people who saw you leave the state of Texas during this freeze?
Well, what I would say is I was taking care of my family the same way Texans all across the state were taking care of my family. And it certainly was not my intention for that to be understood as critics have tried to paint it as somehow diminishing the suffering and hardship other Texans had experienced. Look, Texans want this problem solved. I want this problem solved. I want the power on. We've got most of the homes that had lost.
So Ted Cruz thinks that by flying to Cancun, to Mexico, leaving the state in the midst of a literal emergency, state of emergency, that he was taking care of his family the same way that all other Texans were. I don't know a lot of Texans that were fleeing the state to vacation in sunny Cancun, Mexico. And I don't even know about the little stammer at the end there about how he's taking care of his family the same way Texans have taken care of his family. And then he wants the problem solved and then tries to filibuster. Here's part two, which is, believe it or not, worse than what you just watched.
Senator Cruz, a lot of people are calling your decision to go to Cancun during this time tone deaf. Did you come back because you felt guilty, or did you come back because you got caught and there was a lot of backlash for you going?
So the question from the video on the cell phone was whether the decision to go was tone deaf. Look, it was obviously a mistake, and in hindsight, I wouldn't have done it. I was trying to be a dad, and all of us have made decisions. When you've got two girls who have been cold for two days and haven't had heater power, and they're saying, hey, look, we don't have school, why don't we go, let's get out of here. I think there are a lot of parents that'd be like, all right, if I can do this, great. That's what I wanted to do. As I said, really from the moment I sat on the plane, I began really second-guessing that decision and saying, look, I know why we're doing this, but I've also got responsibilities. And it had been my intention to be able to work remotely, to be on the phone, to be on internet, to be on Zoom, to be engaged. But I needed to be here, and that's why I came back. And then as it became a bigger and bigger firestorm, it became all the more compelling that I needed to come back, because our priority should be fixing this problem and making sure it doesn't happen again. And I didn't want all the screaming and yelling about this trip to distract even one moment from the real issues that I think Texans care about, which is keeping all of our families safe.
Okay, thank you all.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah. I mean, effectively what he's saying there is, look, don't blame me. Don't blame me, a grown-ass man, a United States senator. Look, it's my kids. It's my kids' fault, bro. They wanted to go. What am I to do with my kids? He's blaming it on his family. Once again, throwing the women in his life under the bus. The other part of it is that the moment I sat down, I started second-guessing myself. Oh, listen, Ted Cruz. Once again, you are a United States senator. You have the welfare of millions of Texans as part of your job. You were elected to do a job. And that job entails important decisions that should be given thoughtful consideration. And if you don't have what it takes to make decisions even like this, where as soon as I sat down, I started second-guessing myself, that means you didn't give it much thought. All you were thinking about was sunny Cancun. And then this nonsense about, I was hoping I could work remotely. You know, you have Zoom calls and I could be on the phone. You don't have to be in Cancun for that, Ted Cruz. I don't know if you know, but you've got an office in Washington, D.C. with a full staff of people. You could have worked remotely from there. You could have telecommuted from your office in D.C. where you're paid to be. And then here's Hannity, a very brief Hannity clip with Hannity, of course, obviously, no shocker there, giving him a pass.
Yeah, I didn't see much criticism there early lid that Joe Biden put on things, while the people in Texas, you could use federal help. But there's always that double standard. You made the right call coming back. You also can be a father. There's also something called technology. We also know what teleworking is. And I think there's a lot of sanctimony and politics being played in this attack.
What about Joe Biden? Joe Biden, though. It's not an excuse. Doesn't work that way. And then also talking about the sanctimony of all of this. This is a sanctimony in action. This whole attack is just sanctimony. It's not sanctimony, you pumpkin-headed freak, Sean Hannity. There are real lives at stake right now. And despite what people say about Ted Cruz not having any responsibility here and not being able to do anything because he works for the federal government and this is a state issue, that is not the case. A senator in a state of emergency is a person on the ground who can use the width and breadth of their contacts to make sure things are getting done, to represent the citizens of the state who voted him into office. And further, the reason it's not sanctimony is because real people are suffering. Why don't you go and hang out in a hospital, Ted Cruz, and see what you could do to help them? Reading from an article in the Washington Post, Texas hospitals are running out of water amid power outages. Some are evacuating patients for safety. Health systems are reporting hundreds of their employees staying to sleep overnight because of the perilous road conditions. Many patients who are ready for discharge are stuck because they have no power at home, and many others are showing up at hospitals in search of a warm place to sleep or keep life-saving medical equipment powered. For Texas hospitals, this is an emergency on top of a pandemic, Carrie Williams of the Texas Hospital Association said in an email. They have been on the front lines now with broken pipes, dwindling supplies, and water restrictions. Hospitals are going to great lengths to protect their water supplies, including in Austin, where staff, and I want you to listen to this because this is critically important and tragic and sickening. Ted Cruz was in Cancun getting ready to party it up until Saturday or Sunday while this was taking place in Texas hospitals. Hospitals are going to great lengths to protect their water supplies, including in Austin, where staff used trash bags to remove feces from toilets, a nurse told KVUE. A hospital in Houston relied on buckets of rainwater from the roof to flush toilets. Elsewhere, staff members are cleaning themselves with hand sanitizer instead of soap and water. But Ted Cruz wants to blame his kids. Ted Cruz wants to say, I thought I was going to telecommute, y'all. No, absolutely not. Unacceptable. Ted Cruz is a liar. Ted Cruz is a disgrace. Ted Cruz, we have a second reason in 2021 for Ted Cruz to resign. Not only should he resign for his participation, his incitement of the insurrection on January 6th, he should resign for this. He abdicated his duty, his role as a leader in the state of Texas. Anyway, I would love to know what you think. 714-576-4054. There you can leave me a fewer than 3-minute voicemail. Google voicemail, they will cut you off if it's too long. You can also email me daily@dollemore.com. I would appreciate it very much. Love to know what you think about this, especially if you dissent, if you disagree. Let's move the conversation forward. I would also appreciate it if you would just consider becoming a channel member for fewer than $2 a month. You can help support my work right here on the YouTubes. Click the join button below the video and check out what's available there. I'm going to be doing a live stream a little later in the day, 3 o'clock today. Join me. I'm going to be taking questions, hanging out, talking, whatever. And the other thing is I started a new channel that is just going to be kind of mishmash. There's going to be clips from longer videos. I'm probably going to feature some questions from my live streams that go an hour or more. Sometimes it's hard to wade through all of that to find the specific question. So I'm going to post some of those questions over on the Clips channel. That will also be in the description. Thank you. Thanks for engaging with my content. Thanks for subscribing to the channel, this one and the other one. And follow me on social media. Love to connect with you there. I'll see you next time. Until then, be genuine. Take care of one another.